Hey friends, it's June. Yeah, it's June now, and I have not made this video. I wanted to make it a video quite a while ago, and I have to apologize to QSP Knives. QSP Knives, you guys have been awesome to me. I've reviewed a lot of your knives. Several of them are knives that you've given to me in the past to review, which I very much appreciated. And I reviewed the QSP Penguin, not this one. I ended up selling the one that I reviewed or giving it away. I don't remember. That was back in 2021, was it? Yeah, the QSP Penguin has been out for quite a long time. This is my own sort of custom version. Nobody else has one of these, I think. Maybe somebody does. This was, I think, the D version with the red micarta, except for I got another one with S35VN, and I swapped the handle scales around. So I've got red micarta with S35VN, which is not a model that's available. You can't just go out and buy that. You're gonna have to buy two knives to create one like this. But that's not what this video is specifically about. I'm going to give you, technically this is not a review. This is a video about the QSP Penguin and how awesome I think this knife design is. And that's nothing new. They've got 52 standard versions of the QSP Penguin, plus who knows how many exclusive versions out there. That means even if you don't buy an exclusive, you could carry a different Penguin every week for a full year if you so choose to do. And yeah, it costs you a little bit of money to get all 50 of them, but you know, they start off in the low $30 range, so that's not bad. But then they go up. This one's not quite at the top of the range, but at the top of the range, I think White Mountain Knives has them for $184.45 for the very top of the range version. So I'm going to talk about the QSP Penguin and what I think of this knife. So let's come on to the tabletop and take a good close look at three sizes of the QSP Penguin knife. Come on down. All right, here are the three different sizes of the Penguin, and you did see this when I did sort of the unboxing for these two back in February of 2023. Those of you who aren't aware, I have been very ill this year for most of the year, and you know, so I haven't made the video as quickly as I wanted to, and I was going to do an individual review of the Mini and an individual review of the XL, and that's what I told QSP I was going to do. And you know, maybe that'll happen sometime in the future, but the Penguin is so common these days. Everybody knows about them, and doing a standard review, I don't know how helpful that's going to be today in the middle of 2023. QSP did send me these knives back in January, so, or was it December? I don't even remember exactly. And they deserve to have a full video put out about these knives. Let's first talk about the standard one. I did have quite a lot of pros to say about this knife when it first came out, or this size, not this specific one, because at first it only came out with D2 steel, and yes, that does say S35VN right there, like I said in the intro. And I'm sure that when it first came out, they didn't know what a winner of a knife design that they had. They really had a winning knife design. I did have a few little cons about this knife, not an awful lot. I thought this sharpness tool here is a little bit too big, and look at that. It's not as big on the future ones. And the other con that I had about it, and that's something they didn't change, which makes complete sense to me, the blade length on this thing. From the tip to the closest spot that you can find on the handle scales, it's 3.05 inches according to my measuring. And I remeasured this one just today, and yep, that's what this one is with the S35VN is as well. Now, if you've got a decent a whetstone, maybe you can bring that down and bring it down to, well, if you want to take off steel all the way, bring it down all the way, just take off 0.06 of an inch, take off a little bit. So it's just under 3 inches if you live where there's a 3-inch laws. Unfortunately, if you can't modify yours to make it shorter, you're stuck with the Mini if you live in that kind of place. But the Mini itself is also a very useful knife. But talking about this, those were the two main things, if I remember correctly. I didn't review the video that I had for cons about this knife. I don't really like T6 screws either, but QSP Knives has always done a good job with their T6 screws. They are, ones that are deep enough to get a good grab. And, here's my T6 screwdriver, and I'm trying to wiggle it back and forth, as you can see from these fingers down here. It doesn't wiggle. There's a very nice snug fit. If you've got good quality screwdrivers, you don't really need to worry about the T6 screws on QSP knives. And, the Mini's got some T6, but the XL version's got T8s. Now, there's still button screws, which button screws that are recessed doesn't really make sense to me, but they don't look bad. They don't really look all that bad. I quite like them. This is titanium on the XL, and this is, of course, a G10 that's got copper in it as well. There's other versions, other materials. Like I said, there's 52 different standard ones, and I just found them, there's just too many variants to really talk that much about. But this knife was a winner from the start. I like the thumb studs. These thumb studs have your head in them. That's a T6, I believe. There you go. So that you can remove these if you want to, more easily than you can remove the ones on the standard size. And this one here is, a nice T8. So if you want to remove that, there you go. The difference is, let's put this one aside just for a minute. Just put it to the top of the screen. Talking about these two are very, very much the same, other than the size difference. We've got, like I said, the screw there. We've got flat pivot screw here. Like this one's sort of a button screw. It's got a bump on it. It's, got a nice flat, well, it's a bump there too, but a nice finish on that side. This one's got the QSP triangle in there. The first one, it's just a little more simple looking. But other than that, you've got better logo. Still, this logo here is really nice and small, and it's up on the flat, not on the main bevel. I think that's quite important. It's very important to me anyways. But the liner lockup, it's very nice. Blade alignment. Oh, this one's loose. I'd forgotten to retighten this. There you go. Because I had taken it apart and looked at it and I forgot to retighten it. When the blade pivot's nice and properly tight, the blade alignment's just right down the middle like it should be. And we've got a little bit more jimping than we had on this one. And it's a really nice little knife. Other than that, it's very much exactly the same thing, just shrunk down. Like I said, a little smaller sharpener's choil, but you've got the same kind of blade. These two are both satin finish. There are variants out there with stonewash. I'll talk about all the different steel types and stuff in just a little while and measurements. But first off, it's a very useful little knife. The Mini, we've got a blade length here of 5.9 centimeters, 59 millimeters, which is 2.32 inches, which means on a domestic flight in Canada, I can carry this knife onto a plane. Don't you wish you lived in Canada now? I know, there's other reasons that you might not want to live in Canada, and there's reasons I might want to live somewhere else than Canada, but I still love being a Canadian and living in Canada. But I was talking about this knife, wasn't I? This is a beautiful little knife. I carry it quite a lot. It's something that doesn't really scare people. Like you might, startle them going like that. Ooh, what's that sound? Oh, he's got a cute little knife. not a big deal. It's a useful knife. I really like the blade shape, and it's a very, very comfortable, usable knife. And I like it. I like it a lot. So that's about the Mini, which I really like. Before I talk about the XL version, some more about the standard version. After this one was out for a while, even after, the S35VN exclusives came out and stuff, QSP decided to make a titanium version in this size, and it was a titanium frame lock. I do not have one of those frame locks here, but frame lock they did again here. I should say this frame lock is, other than being a liner lock, and this is my Carta, it was a frame lock otherwise just like this. And the XL version is now a frame lock with another difference. What is that difference? We've got a flipper. So we've got a flipper knife now, as well as the thumb studs are still there, as I mentioned before. And we don't have titanium on both sides, although are there some titanium versions that are full titanium? I don't know all 52 versions of this knife. Wouldn't mind having all 52 versions, but I don't know all 52 versions of this knife. This one here, yeah, of course, this is carbon fiber. I know I said G10 earlier. Carbon fiber with this metal foil, copper. You can get it with aluminum foil, which looks kind of cool as well, but I really like this copper. And, the frame lock side is titanium with, a little lock bar insert put in there because you want some nice hard steel for the insert for the lockup. And it's a beautiful knife. Let's talk some more about that. We've got a titanium frame lock, and they changed the wire clip, and they added a flipper. So 3 major changes for the XL, and they made it higher end. The most high-end variants have got this 20 CV steel, which is quite nice. Big difference from the D2 that they started with. After they had the D2, these aren't in order of manufacture. These are just in the order of steel quality. They came up with Sandvik 14C28N steel for their blades, for some blades, for certain versions. 154CM for certain versions. S35VN, which I have here on this one, for certain versions. C20V for certain versions. And I think it's only in the exclusive realm that you can find it with a pattern welded Damascus steel. On this knife, maybe, I'm not one, I like pattern welded steel, but I like it on basically solid handles. If the handle has too much decoration on it, like too much going on, like this, I like to have just a plain blade. This has got a black wash finish, which is done quite well, and I think it looks great. Maybe I'm going to carry this to my son's wedding in September. So who knows what I'm going to have in my pocket that day. But it might be this, because this is a really good looking knife. It just looks great. Another little change, since it's a frame lock, we've got a nice chamfer over here instead of the textured top for the lock release on these liner locks, which itself is quite nice. But this is just beautiful. It's a full size folder. The blade length on this guy is 87.2 millimeters, which is 3.43 inches. And so it's under that 3.5. I know there's some people, like Nebraska, I think, has got a 3.5 inch law where you can carry just about any knife, or I guess any knife, as if the blade's 3.5 inches. And I don't know why. I don't do very well with frame locks in my left hand. I end up pushing on the lock bar so that I can't deploy the blade very well. So for frame lock knives, I generally stick with my right hand. That is potentially, the bigger con with frame lock knives is they're not really left-hand friendly unless you get one specifically made left-handed. And so I do prefer, liner lock knives for the most part, or axis lock, or all kinds of other locks that are ambidextrous. But frame locks, they're not really ambidextrous in my opinion, because you know, when I'm trying to push on that thumb stud, I might be pushing on there. So even this way, I might not be able to deploy the blade because I'm pushing the detent down, or flipper. So there's that. But since I am ambidextrous, I can carry a knife in my right hand and use it any which way I want. And all of these knives, you can put the pocket clip on either side. Now, the pocket clip on the smaller two versions, or the standard one, you know, goes inside, and it's between the liner and the G10, which is quite nice, with two holes through there that you screw down. And so we've got a nice looking finish here. I really don't like having holes on the side, but unfortunately for the wire clip, there's not really another way to do that. But I've seen some people make a little filler that they can put in here. Hopefully, you know, maybe QSP will do that. You know, I'm not going to hold my breath or anything, but I wouldn't mind if there was, you know, a black coated wire filler that somehow fit in there. I haven't written down weights for the knives. I haven't written down, you know, the other dimensions, the thickness and stuff. They are just very well made, which is why, and their proportions are just very well chosen, which is why they sell so fast. Even though this knife is basically a design that's is it 3+? Or is it 2+? Almost 3 years old? You know, it's a design that people just keep buying. In an age today, you get new knife designs coming out by companies, and you know, they really need to get at least 75% of their sales done in the first 6 months, or else that knife is going to be a flop, because companies keep coming up with more and more and more knives, and so many of the guys that are the knife hobby, knife enthusiasts, are constantly just buying the latest. And right now, as we speak, you know, beginning of June, Blade Show is on, and they're exposing a whole bunch of new blades, and there's going to be a run on new knives very soon. Not that many knives tend to be released on, you know, June 1st or whatever, but, you know, a lot of knives come out very soon after, you know, the main Blade Show in Atlanta. And some knives just sort of get forgotten quite a bit after that, but the Penguin is a design that just keeps going, and it's going strong, and sales are still strong. It's a very good knife. If you are one of the very, very few people who has never bought a QSP Penguin, maybe you'll consider it now. I give this knife very high praise, and you know, some might say, well, it's because you got, you know, these two given to you. Well, that's true that I got them given to me, but if you go and look through my QSP videos, the ones that I have had given to me, I have mentioned cons in those, and sometimes, you know, what I think are fairly important cons, because I don't hold no punches back. If a company gives me a knife to review, they're going to get the standard Canadian cutting edge review, and I really don't change my opinions based on if I got the knife for free or not. Now, of course, that's very easy for me to say. You can only confirm that by checking out my videos and deciding how honest I am or not. You know, I can't just claim that for myself, but I think it's true. I think I don't hold anything back, and that's why this knife, being mostly as a frame lock, I think is just a tiny bit of a miss. QSP, I know you're listening to this video. If you want to make a fourth version of this knife, please make an XL version that's not a frame lock. Even if you're just going to make it for me, which is super doubtful. You're not going to make it just for me, especially since I'm primarily a budget knife guy. You know, knives in this price range here. I don't generally review knives that are over $100 US to buy. And this clearly is, you know, with the 20 CV and, you know, a titanium and, you know, copper foil in the G10. They also have with aluminum foil, and they've got full titanium on both sides with either, you know, milled in hex squares, or some exclusives have got jigging on both sides and stuff. You've got a very good knife size. I really like this bigger knife too, although I'm very happy with this. in Canada, we don't have a 3-inch law, so you know, this size is the one I carried an awful lot of, and which is why I made my own little custom version of it. But this thing, I don't know, maybe make another version that's got a different kind of lock. That would be kind of cool. I just think the size of this thing is just really nice, and I really like the ambidextrous, even of a liner lock. You know, with my left hand on a liner lock, not a problem. Some people left-handed find liner locks, you know, more difficult to use. I don't really find them more difficult to use. They're just, you know, nice knives. But yeah, one that's made to be exactly ambidextrous, 100% ambidextrous. That would be kind of cool. And if you could find a way to make something to put in on the show side here, you know, to fill in where the pocket clip isn't, that would be kind of cool. Now, of course, I'm not going to hold my breath because QSP does what they want to do, not what I tell them to do, because I'm just a little YouTube reviewer with a channel that's not, it's not a small channel for knife review channels, but it's not a large knife review channel either. There's a lot of knife review channels that are a whole lot larger than mine, but one where I pride myself on saying it as I see it. What do you think of these knives? Which one is your favorite, or which ones do you have? Please let us know in the comments down below. And very soon, I'll let you guys all know who the winner is. Excuse me. I still have a cough from when it was super smoky here. My system's just, you know, at the verge all the time, and so things just carry on for a long time. But that's besides the point. Now I forgot what I was saying. I love my brain. My memory's getting better, though, getting off those drugs. Anyhow, oh, I was going to say, I'm going to mention who the winner is from the Patreon YouTube member giveaway. Every month, one of my supporters, either supporting me through patreon.com/CCE or somebody who's clicked join, there's a join button down below the video. You can support my channel for as little as $2 US per month, and one of those supporters wins one of the knives that I reviewed in the past every single month. When I'm in full swing doing my normal number of reviews, they win a knife that I reviewed in the previous month. Hopefully throughout June, I'm going to be able to make more videos closer to my standard number. Hopefully that's how it's going to work out. We'll see. Thank you all for supporting the channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for leaving some kind of comment down below, for hitting that like button, for sharing the video with somebody perhaps. Remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.